Hockey Inside Out, presented to you by the Montreal Gazette.
Welcome to the Hockey Inside Out Show. I'm Montreal Gazette sports editor Stu Cowan, joined today by regulars Chris Nyland, Jack Todd, and we have Jessica Rusnak from TSN Radio 690 with us. Chris, this Canadiens team is a team, I don't know who thought they'd be up 3-0 in this Ottawa series. They're a team that's easy to like and easy to cheer for, it seems, if you're a hockey fan.
Well, if you're a hockey fan from Montreal. I don't know about a hockey fan from Ottawa or Boston or anywhere else for that fact. But, I'm surprised they're up 3-0 in a way. Because, I said at the beginning, I thought they'd have their hands full. You ask any player on that Montreal Canadiens team if they felt like they've had their hands full in this series, and they have. Listen, 2 overtime games and a 1-goal game. Come on. So the Ottawa Senators, they're battling, but Canadiens have been that much better. And honestly, it's come down to what I think everybody talked about at the beginning, and that's goaltending. Carey Price has not let in soft goals. You look at Hammond when he get in, the one that went in overtime, Galchenyuk's goal, Petry's goal, 5-0. Carey Price don't let those goals in. And then obviously the goal the other night, Anderson can say it was a great shot and all, and it was a pretty good shot, but come on, you can't score from that angle. That's Price would have had that one too. So it's come down to goaltending.
When this is done, I think they're going to look back at that stretch in the second period of Game 1. That's when they lost it. Mm-hmm. They had everything going their way. PK's out of the game. Petry isn't playing. You score twice on the major, and you still can't win that game. Yeah. That one was just handed to them on a platter, and when they didn't take it, I think the rest became a foreordained conclusion.
And other than the goaltending, honestly, the secondary scoring we talked about all year that we haven't seen. Certainly been here in the playoffs.
It seems to come down to, though, Jessica, it's character. Right? This team just seems to have a whole bunch of character, almost like Marc Bergevin, who was a character player, has built a team full of Marc Bergevins.
Well, that's what a lot of people, I think, didn't really buy into it when he says, I want character players, that people felt that was a little bit overrated. But I think right now that's when you see the difference, is that everyone's buying in and everyone's elevating their game. Look at Devontae Smith-Pelly ever since he came here from Anaheim. He's the guy that a lot of people have been ragging on, but he's been able to bring that game that they went out and got in that trade, and he's stepped it up. Also, Brian Flynn, he was the story of Game 1, and Tori Mitchell. So a lot of these guys that you probably were not fans of during the regular season and felt that Marc Bergevin made a mistake by it are the ones that are elevating their game and being the difference makers in these kind of playoffs. And that's what you need in a playoff, is that you have that secondary scoring and maybe not the guys that you usually rely on throughout the regular season.
And Bergevin, he does have a lot of character. Like, he played on, 10 different teams? Everybody wanted to see what kind of character he had. Bergie did, there's no question, and he loves character guys.
He also might be the coolest 49-year-old guy in the city with his fashion sense and his and everything else.
But I think it's also, too, the way he rewards the team. Them going up to Tremblant instead of staying in Ottawa or coming back to Montreal. They didn't practice for one day, so they rented out a whole hotel in Tremblant. The guys kind of react. We saw PK Subban on Instagram and Twitter tweet a picture of him. It looked like he was on the hot tub out in Tremblant by a lake. And I think for players, they feel that they're doing a good job. The management is happy with them, and it's just positive all around the team. So I think that's kind of nice that they give them little treats.
Yeah, I don't think they would have been able to do that with Bob Gainey as GM.
Oh, or Gauthier. They would have been eating vegan meals. There would have been no cookies.
Gone on a
staying
hike.
in Motel 8. And
let's buy them all a Ferrari next round. A Ferrari for each one.
Jessica mentioned Smith-Pelly before. Chris, I know when Yuri Seacatch was traded, you were one of the guys who, you said he's an 11 goal scorer in the KHL. He's been a healthy scratch the first 3 games in Anaheim. I guess you're not too surprised by that.
No, yes and no. But again, it's playoff hockey. He hasn't really had it yet. He hasn't really established himself yet. And again, seeing Smith-Pelly here, we talked about his weight and all that, and he has dropped some weight. He lost some weight and brought it down a bit. But boy, kid, come playoff time, he's finished his body checks. He's doing the things that this team couldn't do 2 or 3 years ago. They didn't have a guy to run around like that and finish his checks. Yeah, mowing, but it was past his time. But Smith-Pelly, he's certainly been a good addition so far. I'd like to see him be able to finish.
He plants that butt in front of the net,
I got a chance to speak to him after Game 1, and especially that second period. Everyone watching the game that was probably the best second period that we've seen all season long, our best period of hockey. And I said to him, how did you feel? And he said, that second period was just unbelievable. It was like a fan. Like, he felt the same experience that I think everyone watching the game and those at the Bell Center. So I think he's still really shocked about the opportunity to play for the Canadiens, or what it's like to be in Montreal, especially during playoff time.
You mentioned Bob Gainey earlier. There's still 8 players on this team who were part of the team in 2012 that finished last in the East. You've got Price, Subban, Pacioretty, Desharnais, Plekanec, Emelin, Markov, and Eller. That's sort of the basis of this team.
Yeah.
You wonder, maybe if Bob Gainey had hired Mark Bergevin as his pro scouting director a few years ago.
You know, that's where it went off the rails for Gainey, and it was Gautier's specific job to scout, and things like ending up with Yanni Ninnema, who had issues. You know, you wouldn't deal him, even if he was healthy and had no problems, you wouldn't have dealt him straight up for Ribeiro, which they did. All these kind of mistakes that he just doesn't make. We were all saying, well, after the trade deadline this year, well, maybe he made a mistake, you know, with Petry or with Smith Pelly. Obviously, he made no mistakes at all.
Well, let's look at two. You know, when we look at 3 years ago, the maturity level of these guys in life, off the ice, and on the ice. You know, they're still little babies 3 years ago. And not that they're all grown up now, but they've matured quite a bit in those 3 years. So that was a good core. That was the up-and-coming core, and now they're here.
And most GMs, you know, they talk about a 5-year plan. This is year 3 only,
Yeah.
so the future's looking...
Well, yeah, you get to the Eastern Conference Final in year 2. Year 1 was way better than anybody thought. You took a team that was third from the bottom, got them to the playoffs. It's been a great tour, and the funny thing is, he has never made a major move. I say he's the king of tweak, you know? Everything is little moves that added together make a terrific cohesive group.
And he's able to see talent before it starts to decline and everyone else sees it. The Eric Cole trade, I think everyone was really shocked by that, but now you look at it, it paid off. Josh George's same thing, and even now Yuri Sekac, he kind of saw that he wasn't maybe all that he was hyped up to be during the offseason, and makes these moves before their value goes down, and I think that's a great asset for him to have.
The Sekac move showed to me also that he's not afraid to admit when he maybe made a mistake. Not that Sekac was a mistake, but he saw it and he cut it off, made the trade.
Yeah,
It was a
really.
good
And
move.
I don't think there's a player out there that he got rid of that you can look at and say, oh my God, why did he trade him?
Yeah.
You know, every single one. It's...
We'll be right back after a short break, and we'll talk more Habs. Welcome back to the Hockey Inside Out Show. Jessica, I know on your radio station, one of the favorite songs there now is Weise's The Word. It's hard not to like this guy, I guess, unless your name's John Tortorella.
Exactly, and I love the way he kind of jokes about it too, Dale Weise, that a lot of times, I'm not going to talk about Torts, and then he'll say something like, oh, yeah, I'm happy I'm away from him. So he kind of beats around the bush a little bit, but he makes it very known that they didn't get along at all. But he's one of those character guys that we were talking about earlier, that before he came to Montreal, he's not a guy from the NHL that you would really know. It's not a household name, but he's become a household name here in Montreal. He's very comfortable talking to the media. He's a guy that's able to elevate his game when he needs the most, especially if you look at last year's playoffs, and then you even look at this year that he's starting to pick it up where it is. And he's just a great team guy. I don't think there's anyone in the room that could really say anything negative about Dale Weise.
Chris, did you have a coach at some point in your career you wanted to stick it to? Your previous coach?
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Dale Weise, just awesome what he's done here. And, you know, it's great, the goal. I mean, come on. He's got, what, 3 game winners, 2 in overtime, 2 tying goals, big goals last year. It's unbelievable what this kid has done. Talk about clutch player. And you know what the best part about the whole Dale Weise thing is? Everybody in that locker room loves Dale Weise, from the coach on down. Everybody, and he's one of those guys that help keep the fabric of this team together. You know, we always hear the bad seed, the one that rips the team apart. Well, this kid is one of those guys that help keep it together.
And you can
It's
play
awesome.
him on every line.
Oh yeah, their Weise was granted when they got him.
We had a poll on the HIO site asking, who's your favorite Galley, Gallagher or Galchenyuk? And 72% voted Gallagher. I don't know, you surprised by that?
I'm a little surprised because Galchenyuk's a popular player. It's not like they don't like him, and obviously he has a huge upside, but everybody loves Gallagher except the referees.
Well, I think it's because Galchenyuk's a little bit more guarded, where Gallagher shows more of his personality and he's easier to like. I think you ask any girl from the age of probably 10 to 75, I think everyone has a crush on him. He goes through all age groups just because his charisma.
He's replaced Camilleri as
Yes,
favorite,
exactly.
favorite jersey of the teeny set.
I think it comes down to what Gallagher does on the ice, bottom line. You know, he's down, he's up, he's in the crease, he gets knocked around, he's always smiling in someone's face. People just, they're drawn to that, and they look at it and they're just amazed at how this kid can just keep on going like the ever ready bunny.
No,
like he's just constant.
He could work in the off season as a crash test.
Yeah.
Hey, I love the clip of him going nuts after his goal was waved off when he was like 6 years old or something. He was in the crease. The referee's like,
In the crease as a 6-year-old. Yeah. No, this Tori Mitchell story is turning into a great story also. The kid coming home to Greenfield Park and playing here. And what's it been like being around him in the room, Jessica?
Well, it's been great. He also does have that added pressure because he does speak French, so he has a little bit more of a bigger scrum that sometimes if the French media needs a few clips in French instead of just going to Parenteau or Desharnais, that he's now a guy that can alleviate that pressure. And I think that's a lot for him to step into, especially playing in markets like Buffalo and San Jose beforehand. He probably didn't have that much media attention. And during the off season, he lives in Vermont, so he's not necessarily a local Montreal boy that I think a lot of people associate with, but he's really embraced this role, and I think he's taken a lot of pride in it. He said that being 30 years old playing for this team is probably better than when he was 21. He feels a lot more well-equipped, a lot more mature. And you know what? If he can continue playing well, it's another great move that Marc Bergevin made.
And the pressure for him in Greenfield Park, too. I know his dad runs a hockey school there in the summer, and when Tori shows up, he's just mobbed by kids.
You know, I've lived in Greenfield Park for 20 years, and I've had maybe 6 people in that time comment on a column that I wrote, and maybe 60 since I wrote the column on Tori Mitchell. All of a sudden, they know who I am. Not because I'm me, but because I wrote about Tori. You know?
Jeff Petry, another one of the trade deadline pickups. Chris, the more I watch this guy, the more I like him.
You know, he's a rookie in the playoffs. And, you know, it takes time to make those adjustments. It's funny, I read a quote that he said, you know, I heard the playoffs are like this. And now he's in the middle of it, and he certainly played well. He's a big kid. He's been using his body, which is key in this series, because I always talk about Emelin being the only guy who hits, blah blah blah, but Jeff Petry, yeah, he's a good puck mover and all that, but he got size. He can cover a lot of space out there, and when he uses his body, boy, he's so much more effective.
And when you were talking about him being a rookie in the playoffs, I said to him, what kind of professional playoff experience do you have? He said 1 year, when Edmonton, of course, was eliminated at the end of the season, they sent him down to the AHL, and he played 2 playoff games there before they were eliminated by the Hamilton Bulldogs. So that's only 2 AHL playoff games, and that's all he has at 27 years old. It's shocking to believe that.
And talking about Marc Bergevin's moves, I mean, he's wearing number 26 like Josh Georges. Josh Georges earning $3.9 million this year, and Petry's earning $3.075 million.
And brings so much more.
And Georges has 3 more years. Now, can they re-sign him though? That's one of the things.
Yeah, that could be tricky. He's going to be $5 million, and but Bergevin has room. That's another thing he's managed well.
Now, Nathan Beaulieu, upper body injury, saying it's not a concussion. If he's out for
there's no way it's a concussion. Come on, he wouldn't have been back on the bench. He didn't show the signs of a concussion to me. I don't believe. I think it's something else. But certainly, I like the way he got up. He didn't lay there on the ice.
Was it a clean hit?
According to the definition they're using, he hit simultaneously the body and the head, so it's clean. To me, that still doesn't do what you were trying to do with the rule in the first place, which is to protect the head. So you got to protect the head no matter you hit the body, you hit the feet, whatever you hit. If you hit the head too, it should be a suspension.
There's loopholes in the rule. That's the thing. And they do put some onus on the player receiving the check. He said it was said and it was explained to me that he changed his body position right at the end. And I go back to the Pacioretty hit on Letang. Yeah. Letang changed his body position at the last second to shoot the puck. Yeah. So, but that's part of the rule. Until they clarify that. Those are the gray areas.
And well, Bergevin's line has always been you can never have too many defensemen, right? He's got Sergei Gonchar, he's got Mike Weaver, two veterans. There's a tweet this week from Mike Weaver's wife of Weaver and his wife out for dinner with Brendan Gallagher and Jacob De La Rose. It looked like a sort of a family portrait. I think that sort of says a lot about the character on the team and the sort of family environment they have. Anyway, that's it for this week. We'll be back next week with another episode of Hockey Inside Out.